Welcome back to House of Horns. Look who we have back. We have our guy Gilberto Manzano, who does it for Sports Illustrated MMQB. He is back after being on maternity leave. Gilbert, it's good to have you back. This is your first episode of Offseason Rams Talk. We are doing it. We're pre-recording this because we have a lot going on in terms of the channel. So we wanted to make sure we got you on here. No live version this time. Gilbert, how are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing well, and hopefully everybody's doing well here at House of Horns. And yeah, we'll do a live show soon. Kind of tough this week with the NFL draft and a lot of content to do, but it's been an amazing last few months here. I'm a first-time father. My son was born in early February, so I've been away for a bit, but I've been working for a few weeks now, so I'm back on the NFL grind. I'm back on the NFL draft grind, but I haven't got a chance to fully break down what the Rams have done in the offseason. So we'll discuss that a little bit here. And then obviously get into some Rams, draft conversation, first round, I guess scenario. Is it a quarterback? Is it not? Is it even a wide receiver? Or do you focus more on the defensive side? Saquon Barkley is still running wild on them. Sorry about that. I had to kind of throw the jab there. But hey, the Rams did play the Eagles very, very tough, as we found out in that playoff game. The Chiefs did not. The Commanders did not. So this team is very close to get to that next level. But can they do it in the draft? We'll discuss it. But so much to unpack, from Davante Adams to Puna Ford to picking number 26 in the NFL draft. I'm ready to break it down here, Victor.
Yeah, and it's been quite the offseason for the Rams. I thought, just in terms of, the shows that I've been able to do, I've talked about it, whether it was with Eric. Eric's been a great contributor to not only House of Horns but Compas on the Beat. Eric Willing, who does it for Fox Sports, he's also talked about it, and so it was great to have him on here and kind of get his takeaways. And now that we have you back, it's good. We want to know what you think of this offseason, because I know Eric said that they kind of overpaid for Davante Adams, but I also have my questions when it comes to Davante Adams, because I've not only followed him from Green Bay to the Raiders, but to the Raiders to the Jets. As of today, Gilbert, he said that he's ready to leave those functional teams, and I don't know if he brings that with him, or that is something that's been there before with those teams. So I kind of want to get your thoughts in terms of what your takeaways have been from this offseason, because it's kind of been up and down depending on who you talk to.
Yeah, I'm pretty high on the Devonte Adams signing. It was funny seeing the reactions in terms of the national people who give their opinions, and they asked me for mine, and I thought it was probably the best free agent signing of this class, and some people thought the same, and a lot of people just hated it. It was very split, either one way or the other, because he is a good player, but he comes with baggage, and he's older, and they did overpay, but we can't deny that he still balled out last year. He was still the number one option on the New York Jets. Yeah, maybe Garrett Wilson should have been that guy. I definitely think Garrett Wilson should have been the number one option there. But you saw Davante Adams still capable of carrying that number one label, and I don't know. That could be an issue with the Rams, because he won't be the number one guy in LA. It's gonna be Puka Nacua, because he's just a volume guy. He gets a lot of targets and receptions. Will Davante Adams be okay with that? So these are all the concerns here that I think people have. But in terms of the whole free agency class as a whole, like you're hearing it right now, this NFL draft is not good for quarterbacks. It's kind of weak. Not a lot of blue chip prospects. Not a lot of generational talent. That's the word you hear a lot, or a phrase. That was the same thing with free agency in March. Oh, it's not that great. People are taking care of their own. They're re-signing their players. There's not going to be a lot of talent on the open market. So that was the case. I agree with that notion. And so to me, it was very difficult to figure out, okay, what's really a good signing here. There was a lot of bad signings. I had no problem doing that. The worst free agent signings, there was like 10 that I thought of, but the good ones were hard for me to think about. So I went for need, fit, talent, contract, age, and 2-year contract. And Davante Adams is not getting paid like a top 5 wide receiver anymore. Let's not pretend like he's still making a bunch of money like Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase. That bar went up. He's not in that class anymore. So I think
Right.
overpaying a little bit for Davante for 2 years. It's not 4 or 5 years. I'm okay with that. I haven't looked at the contract in terms of how you could get out of it. Maybe there's a way you could get out of it after the first year. The remember Allen Robinson? I thought about that too. Like, oh, what if
Yeah.
it's Allen Robinson? But Davante Adams has always been better than Allen Robinson in his prime. Like, it's not even the same player. So I liked rolling the dice there because Robinson, he was okay, but he was never like Davante. Davante Adams, not forget about it. It was top 3 at one point in this league here. So player is still a very productive player, but yes, there's a lot of baggage here. And we're talking about that, I think the Rams are the one team that can actually, kind of keep that in check here. You have a good quarterback. You have Matthew Stafford. It's not going to be Jimmy G in Las Vegas. He didn't complain about Aaron Rodgers because that was his boy. So and then also the Jets and the Raiders are not Les Snead and Sean McVay with the Rams. You don't have all
Right.
that kind of drama. So even if he brings the drama, there's a lot of people to keep him in check here. A lot of people who don't really mess around with that nonsense. Jalen Ramsey was here for a long time, and people thought he was this kind of very brash, arrogant, my way or the highway kind of player, and he won a Super Bowl here. So
Odell
to me,
Beckham. I mean,
Odell
that's
Beckham,
another one.
another one. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it just keeps going on and on. So to me, from that, yeah, they overpaid. He's older. It's risky, but it's a 2-year contract. And everything the Rams have been doing this year says we're in now because we know what
Yep.
Stafford's last year. F it, let's go for it. To me, I think the Rams. I'll probably be a little negative. I think the Rams think they're close to the Eagles because of what the Commanders and the Chiefs did in the playoffs. I think they still have ways to go to catch up to the Eagles. That's why I think this draft is going to be critical for this team. But they're acting like we're not that far away. So when you got that mindset, I think Davante Adams fits that kind of. You know what? Let's go for it. Why not?
And I think part of it too, why I understand them going for it, is because you look around the NFC and it's like outside of the Eagles, what if something happens with the Eagles? They lost some players. It
Yep.
doesn't mean like sometimes it's about matchups. And we said it like the one team you didn't want to see was the Eagles, even though they were on the brink of almost beating them at the end there. So I understand, and you got to compete in LA. As I always say, you have the Dodgers who just won the World Series. You have the Lakers who acquired Luca. You need names, and you need guys like Davante Adams. And so my only thing is in terms of why I think it might not work is because you have a situation where you have a beloved receiver in Cooper Cup who leaves the team. One of the things that Cooper Cup was great at was being unselfish. He did the dirty work. He was willing to do the dirty work. And my thing is Davante Adams willing to do the dirty work? And one of the things that we talked about with Eric was the fact that you had Davante Adams, not want to participate in preseason. That's not going to be a problem here. We know that Sean McVay isn't playing his players in preseason, but also there was the whole business decision thing that happened with the Raiders, and he was one of those guys that did not want to block down the field. And so that would be my only thing is if things start off bad again, like we've seen the Rams do the last 2 seasons, is he willing to put in the work and be unselfish? And that is my only concern for this Rams team and their culture.
That's a good point. And I think Puka Nakua, even though he's the number one and he takes a lot of targets, he does the dirty work still. So
Yeah.
he's still able to he's capable of filling that role, but he don't have a guy who does that more. And that was Cooper Cup. Cooper Cup, let's be real, he was a step slower. He's not the player that Davante Adams is right now. So I think from that standpoint, you're getting a better wide receiver. He'll be able to get open down the field, make plays on the field. Cooper Cup couldn't do that anymore. I get it. People were attached to Cooper Cup. He's a legend for the team, but the last 2 years he wasn't that good. He got hurt a lot. He wasn't. There was a reason why he couldn't find the role next to Puka Nakua. He just couldn't play. He couldn't get open. That's why I worry about him with the Seahawks. I mean, we'll see what happens. Maybe I could be wrong. Maybe Cooper Cup figures it out with Seattle and they give him the ball more. Maybe it's just Puka Nakua factor. I thought it was a little more than that. And I think what the Rams did shows that. But I am concerned about the dirty work because if Devontae won't do that, it can't be Tutu Atwell being your number 3. That's the thing. That's another
Yeah.
thing that I almost was like, what the hell? Tutu Atwell got $10 million for 1
Yeah.
year. What the hell has that guy done? I've been critical of Tutu Atwell on the show
And I
many
brought it
times.
up. I brought your name up when I brought up the fact that I was shocked he
That
was
probably should have
re-signed for.
been one of the worst free agent signings of this year. But no, people don't even know Tutu Atwell that well. Like he's kind of more of he's a local guy because he doesn't do anything in terms of the national level. So if he's getting paid $10 million, that tells me he's gonna be a part of the rotation. He can't block. He can't do that. So to me, it's like, why? Like, are you trying to change philosophy to be more vertical passing down the field than doing this 11 personnel where everybody does a little bit of everything? So to me, Victor, that could be something that you're gonna mess with. It could either blow up, but you know the Rams too, Vic. They like to be ahead of the curve. So maybe they're trying to cook something up differently, and maybe that's where they tend to do well. But I hope they get a wide receiver who's able to block. Maybe Jordan Whittington could do that. But that is a good question that you're asking there for Davante Adams.
Yeah, and I think that was I mean, like I said, we're gonna be fair here and look at both sides. I'm not just gonna be, hey, this is a great signing, which I really do like. I like it more because I think about Odell Beckham, but I also have to bring up the fact that I know this player really well, and I know what he, if he gets sick of something, the other thing too is he's gonna be on the Up and Adams, show, and how much are Ram fans gonna be okay with him, spilling stuff, on there as well? We saw how a lot of people weren't happy with the fact that Aaron Rodgers was on the Pat
Mhm.
McAfee show every week. So I get it. Like if you're winning, it doesn't matter. But once you start losing and he gets frustrated, I've seen him turn on the franchise. He did it with the Jets and he did it with the Raiders, and he also did it with the Packers. It's just with the Packers, it was a little bit, low key just because
Mhm.
they're in the middle of nowhere. And so that's part of the thing. And here you're in LA and there's a lot more, coverage when it comes to not only the local media, but the national media. So we'll see what
Yeah.
happens there. And just in terms of the rest of the offseason, you already talked about Tutu Atwell, Puna Ford. I thought to me the better signing was Puna Ford just because, as you mentioned, Saquon Barkley is still running. I thought they needed some defensive tackles. As Eric also brought up, they overpaid for him, but at the same time, I understand they needed a defensive guy there, someone that can plug up the hole.
Yeah, they did overpay, and he's never been a good player. Where like you think about, he's really good. He's more of a specialist. He'll help you out in the run defense. So you're paying for that. So keep that in mind too for this NFL draft. Maybe they'll go after a defensive tackle who is a specialist at run defense. Like, yeah, this big nose tackle that can't really pass rush, or maybe has some cardio issues, but damn, he could really clog the lanes and eat the gaps there. So I wouldn't mind that because that's a big reason why they fell to the Eagles, and they couldn't stop the run. So I get it with the Puna forward, he's not that kind of player to be commanding that type of money, but he does one thing very well, and that's what the Rams wanted. So I'll give him a pass there. I don't like the contract. I don't like who they paid, but again, he's a specialist. So if they do that more, I feel like it's kind of like the Cowboys. They keep trying to find somebody to help them with the run defense. They have great edge rushers. It's just they can never find somebody who does that very well. And are you going to be that for the next couple of years where you have great pass rushers, but you can't stop the middle? The Cowboys drafted a Mozzie Smith from Michigan, a specialist to be the run defense guy. He couldn't do that. Even the guy that they resigned, Aussie, I'm blanking on his name. He's not a very good defender, but he's a good interior pass rusher. So you got to have guys that can stop the run here. So the Rams got to figure that out. So I get it. I'm gonna give him a pass for Puno 4, but I kind of was like, really that much money for him? Okay, and he's also a veteran, an older guy. He played in Seattle. People in Seattle really liked him. I remember when he was in his
Yeah.
prime, he was a good player, but he was never a star player. That's the thing too. So I get it. $29 million is really not much when you think about it, but for he kind of seems like he would have probably not gotten that money for let's say 15 teams in the NFL.
Yeah. And I mean, I know I heard, from Chargers people that, from our guy Fernando, that they really wanted to keep him. It's just the Rams overpaid for him,
Hmm.
and so that was part of it. And I even asked him, I said, "Hey, how was he in the locker room?" He said he was a great guy, and so he's gonna be someone that a lot of the reporters are really gonna like. The beat reporters there, just because of he'll even in losses will answer questions and stuff like that. So that's something that you're gonna get. And then lastly, Gilbert, I wanted to ask you about they finally addressed the linebacker position. They signed Nate Landman from the Atlanta Falcons. I know it's not a big thing. I just bringing it up just to make fun of it.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's not gonna do. Is he gonna be a special teams contributor? Is he gonna be?
Yes, that's what
Didn't they
he's
bring back Troy
Troy
Reader?
Reader.
Oh God,
Yeah.
okay.
They did
Sorry.
lose a Christian Rosenboom and Jake Hummel.
Yeah, I was surprised. Where did Roseboom? I forgot when.
Rosenboom, you know what's crazy is that Bobby Brown the third and I think
Oh
Roseboom or
yeah,
Hummel went to Carolina because
yeah,
Ebro is the
yeah.
defensive
Ujiro
coordinator
Ebro.
there.
That's what it
Yeah,
was. It's funny
yeah,
because I was looking at the Panthers depth chart and they had Roseboom as their starting linebacker, and I'm like, either somebody's doing this depth chart that doesn't watch a lot of Rams football and they just kind of saw the starts that he had, or the Panthers are really hurting there and they had to plug him
yeah.
in there as in their depth chart. But yeah, they need to improve their linebacker, and that's why I keep saying just draft one or trade for one. But Leslie, he's not really gonna value the linebacker, off ball linebacker position. That is.
Yeah, and I mean they're never gonna pay for defense. I mean, they are the cheapest team in the league in terms of what they pay their defense. And one of the things that I've been saying, Gilbert, I've been shouting to to the clouds like an old man is that I want to see the Rams kind of do what the Eagles. I'm not talking about the trenches. I would like for them to start paying some of their young guys like Kobe Turner early now. Start taking care of those defensive guys early. That way, you're ahead of the curve. You just saw. I just talking about that. Howie Roseman just paid their center Jurgens,
Hmm.
ahead of time. So I want to see the Rams start to do that. Start paying some of your young guys that was my thing for this offseason. But we'll see what happens the rest of this offseason.
Yeah, Turner's going into year 3, so maybe after this season they'll do that. I think Kyron Williams could maybe be one. I don't know. He'll be one because he's a running back, and they got Blake Corum. But Kyron Williams coming off another prolific year, and he's what going into year 4, so they could pay him before he becomes a free agent. So that could be another one too. But
Yeah.
it'll be if Leslie does that, he has a lot of young talent, so it'd be good to take care of that too.
Yeah, and now let's get to the draft. I mean, that's why we're here. We're now caught up on the Rams offseason with Gilbert. Gilbert, what are the positions in your mind that you said that you think the Rams are still a ways to go. Like they're not where they think they are. So where do they need to fill depth on this team? And the way to
Yeah.
do it is through the draft. So what positions are priorities for the Rams in this draft?
Yeah, they're in an interesting spot where they're definitely a playoff caliber team. They're getting closer to being they're definitely a division caliber team, like division winner, and they won the NFC West last year. I think they're still the top dogs in the NFC West. But adding Davante Adams and Puna Ford, does that make you a Super Bowl contender? Are they better than the Eagles? Are they better than the Chiefs and the Ravens and the Bills? I don't see it right now. I think they're a level below. So that leads me to the draft. I think to get to that Super Bowl contender status, you need to keep building in the draft. So, you know, I'm a little conflicted because I want the Rams to start thinking about the future for the quarterback position. It's obvious now it's going to be Matthew Stafford's last year. You never want to say never. Uh, but if you're going all in this year and you went to get Davante Adams, you overpaid for Puna Ford, you overpaid for Tutu Atwell. I don't know why, but you're bringing him back. To me, it tells me they're going to go for a non-quarterback in the first round. It just seems like they want to get better to get to the Eagles level, and maybe the gap is not that wide because yeah, they lost Josh Sweat, they lost Milton Williams, but you know Howie Roseman, he's already drafted these guys a couple years before to fill in for the next group that leaves. So he's always ready. So the Rams can't really mess around with that too. So and the other part too, Victor, is the whole defensive factor with Les Snead. They have holes defensively, but is Les Snead going to take care of it? And we know last year Sean McVay really wanted Brock Bowers, but they said no, let's get this guy Jared Verse, and it worked out. So maybe that could be kind of a hey, let's keep doing what we're doing on defense and figure it out. They prioritize the defensive front. But would they get a linebacker? Maybe the only one you want to go on the first round is Jaheed Campbell, sorry, from Alabama. Uh, but he might be gone in the top 15. The cornerbacks, you got the one from Texas. I'm blanking on his name, Victor. You probably remember better than I
Jade
do.
Barron.
A Barron, and then you got
Yeah.
Will Johnson from
You also have the kid from Kentucky, Hamilton. Sorry,
yeah. I'm not sure he's going to be a first round guy.
Hairston. Go ahead. Sorry.
But there's options there for cornerback. But I would not be surprised if they go offensive lineman. It'd be good to kind of take care of that spot too, because who's gonna be the center? Was Bo
Maxwell
Limmer?
Hairston, sorry.
Oh,
Maxwell Hairston.
so you have
Yeah.
options at cornerback too. I think to me, those are bigger needs, but you won't maybe get the value at number 26 here. If you get a Will Johnson, that'd be great. But if you go and figure out offensive line, Rob Havenstein getting younger, you did pay Alaric Jackson, so you're good at left tackle. You got Kevin Dotson. You got rid of Jonah Jackson, but is Steve Avila going to go back to guard or go to center? Is Bo Limmer, was he just a 1 year temporary guy? Is Coleman Shelton going to be the guy? He was so bad in Chicago, but he maybe is better with the Rams. To me, I would like to see them take care of offensive line. Maybe get a Kelvin Banks from Texas who could play tackle and guard. If you want to get a center, a Gray Zabel from North Dakota State could be the number one center in this class. You got Booker from Alabama, who's a good guard. There's a couple guys from Ohio State. Josh Simmons got hurt. He would have been the number one rated tackle if we never did. Can you wait for him to rehab and make him the tackle of your future on the right side next year? But again, that doesn't really fit the need of going all in. There's a tackle from Ohio State who replaced Simmons. I forgot his name, who could also play guard. That could be a position. Maybe they make a move for a Colston Loveland or Tyler Warren. That might be a little too rich for less need, but to me, the Rams are tricky because they have so many needs to get better and become a Super Bowl contender. So that's why I kind of rule out quarterback. If Jaxson Dart and maybe a Jalen Milroe are there in the second round, or Tyler Shough, is it Shough? Yeah, Shough.
Yeah, sure.
Maybe in the second round, that you rather do it there than the first round. But that's interesting about the Rams, Victor. I gave you like 5 different positions. They have
Hmm.
needs, but they don't have one that's a for sure thing because you're not going to draft a run stopper in the first round because maybe that's a pick. Maybe the team's a tackle, but these guys are a little more pass rusher type than the run stopper because you already got Fisk and you got Turner to do that. So
Yeah.
maybe you don't go for that either.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting what happens in terms of this draft, whether or not you see them trade for a veteran cornerback out there, or and that's how they go. But for me, it's cornerback, it's safety always. I'm sorry, like I get that you have good safeties, but with the way Shula likes to run things, I could see them doing it. Uh, but I think linebacker is another one, Gilbert, and I wouldn't be surprised if they go and they get a guy locally from UCLA in
Oh yeah.
Carson Schweschinger. Like he's I've already heard Adam Schefter say that he can see him going in the first round. I thought he'd be there in the second round, but just because of how well he's done in not only the combine, but now he's starting to move up. I know there's another linebacker from Alabama that everybody likes.
Hmm.
He had I think a shoulder injury, but I feel like he's going to go earlier
Yeah, Campbell.
in the first. Yeah, Will Campbell. Well, if Will Campbell's there, he's a for sure. I'm running up if I'm the Rams and putting and turning on the car, but I just don't know. We know that they don't value linebackers, but I think if, like you said, if you're going all in, then you want to get one of those really good linebackers. And I'm with you, defensive tackle. If Grant is there from Michigan, the kid from Oregon's there. You go and you continue to build this defensive line. You build this trenches, like you said, with what we saw with Howie Roseman, where you just continue to add depth to those trenches. And then even offensive line, if you can get a tackle out of this, one of those tackles falls to you, you go ahead and you take them there. And even if it's like the kid you said from Ohio State, if he's hurt and he's not going to be ready, just let him sit behind. We just heard that their right tackle, where my Havenstein,
Hmm.
had both of his shoulders clean. So, I
Wow.
mean, we don't know if he's going to be ready to go either. So, if you need another tackle to be there just in case he's not there, you draft another one just in case.
Yeah, the UCLA linebacker is intriguing. I feel like maybe it might be a little too high in the first round, but you're kind of on the back end of the first round. Maybe
Yeah.
they do it there again. Does Lesney go away from that already? Of not valuing linebackers, and he has a good story. I was reading that he was like a walk on special
Yep.
teamer on UCLA, and he just kept doing all the right things, and he's doing the same thing, And this lead up to the draft, and people are liking him. Good sideline to sideline speed, has a good nose for the ball, a good instinct. So you kind of need a playmaker in that middle. You lost it when Ernest Jones left, and he's a good player. Look at him; he got a new contract with Seattle, like we expected him to do. I just didn't work out on Tennessee because they were kind of a dog crap show there. But
Yeah.
they just don't pay for that position. But maybe getting gashed by Saquon Barkley twice might make them wake up.
Yeah, and you saw what happened. I just thought it was funny with the special teams guy Landman that they got from Atlanta. I was like, are they trying to do the Philly thing where nobody thought
Oh
about
yeah,
Sack
yeah,
Vaughn as a special teamer, and like
that's true.
they turned him into a all pro guy. So you never know. I get it. I know a lot of people were talking about that, but we will see. Now you talked about you don't see them drafting a quarterback in the first round, but at what point will they draft their quarterback of the future, and who makes the most sense, whether it's in the first, second, third round for a Sean McVay offense?
Yeah, like I mentioned in one of my stories, it's like the dream scenario would be get that defensive playmaker in the first round, and then get one of these quarterbacks in the second round. I'll be okay with it in the second round. I think the first round is too high when you're trying to be a Super Bowl contender. And then again, like some of these quarterbacks, like besides Cam Moore, they're kind of clustered together. Like I can't even tell is Shadur Sanders that much better than Jaxson Dart and Jalen Milroe? Is the draft hype machine just kind of out of control? Where like one day is Tyler Shough, and one day is Jalen Milroe, and one day is Jaxson Dart, one day Shadur Sanders. Okay, like they're always kind of the flavor of the month, but are they just kind of quarterbacks on the same level? So like Victor, I think you mentioned on Compas on the Beat, you say all five will go in the first round. If a
Yeah,
couple make it a second round, make your move. I get the Rams don't have a second round pick. That's gonna suck for them when it comes to getting this quarterback of the future. But if Jackson Dart's there and it's starting to become the 40s and the 50s, make a move, Leslie. Go ahead and get him. You got to start thinking about the future. Maybe the draft goes your way and you get him in the third round. I think one of those guys will probably be there. Do you take a chance on a guy like Quinn Ewers, who's supposed to be kind of one of the top quarterback prospects before he had a crappy year at Texas? He made some bad throws at Texas, but he also had a lot of clutch moments at Texas too. Do you take a chance and say, my quarterback whisperer, Sean McVay, he's going to develop that guy? Does Will Howard deserve more credit from Ohio State? He won the freaking national title, and he played his best football in the college football playoffs. Those 4 games he was pretty lights out. He does have his limitations, but again, if Sean McVay is able to get a pocket passer, he makes him better. But obviously, he's gone through the Jared Goff route where the limitations are annoying to him. Maybe he wants to go all in. It's really tough to kind of gauge with Sean McVay. He hasn't really done this in a minute. He went with Stetson Bennett in the fourth round. I don't think that was the intention to make him the quarterback of the future. It was more to be the backup. He couldn't even do that. So he's kind of been in this position. Okay, how do I get my quarterback of the future? Because let's remember, even Jared Goff inherited from Jeff Fisher, right, from 2016 to 2017. He went to get Stafford in a trade. So it's a very unique position for the Rams here. He's getting older, Matthew Stafford, but you don't want to kind of just get some so-so guy that you have to coach up all the time. That gets tiring for a head coach. That's why you got tired of Jared Goff here. So uh,
yeah,
I don't know, Victor, what happens because they don't have that second round pick and they want to be Super Bowl contenders and you want to reach in the first round. Uh, Maybe they do it in the third round, but who is it at that point? Like I mentioned, Quinn Ewers, maybe Dylan Gabriel's pretty. He's a small quarterback, but he was very
yeah,
good at Oregon. And then you have is it McCord from
yeah.
Syracuse?
McCord,
It
yeah,
could be some
McCord from
guys there in the third round, but is that a good spot to take quarterback of the future? I don't know.
Yeah. And that's the thing. They're kind of in between too. Like you said, they do have an extra third round pick because of the Raheem Morris.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. Because he signed with the Falcons there. So they have that extra third round pick that they could move up to like the back end of the second round. I could see that them trying to do that and perhaps mortgage some picks from next season. But it's I think what makes it, too, what you brought up, I thought is interesting that he hasn't been able to develop his own quarterback. Like he got Matthew Stafford, Jared Goff was already there. The guy he wanted to develop was Perkins, but he quickly realized that it wasn't him, and so because they tendered him, and then they finally gave up on him. So maybe, like I said, it just feels like very Jalen Milroe, but like you said, he likes pocket passers, so we don't know. Like I don't know what I know. I a lot of these young offensive girl, whether you're talking about McVay, Shanahan, all these guys are still, you finally saw with Shanahan and Purdy, where he finally got a guy that he developed himself, and he's getting a lot of credit for that. I wonder if Maybe wants to do the same thing. Maybe he takes a chance on one of those developmental quarterbacks in the middle of those rounds, and that's where they find the quarterback of the future. But it's interesting with McVay. It'll be interesting to see, and the Rams, what they want to do, whether or not they're all in and they pick at with their first round pick at 26, or they decide, hey, you know what, we're here at 26. What do we do? Do we want to move? If we're all in, then Gilbert, that leads me to my next question: should they trade up for Warren or Loveland, the tight end? Because we heard that they really wanted, they wanted to trade up last draft for Brock Bowers. It didn't happen. Now there's a chance where either Warren or Loveland drop a little bit, and they can go and get them. So, do you think would it be the right move if they do trade up, because they're all in on offense?
If they trade up, here's the problem with needing a quarterback for the future. Like, you already lost your second round pick in the Braden Fisk trade. If you trade up for a Tyler Warner or Loveland, you're gonna give up capital probably for the future, unless you just say, F it, we're gonna lose all our capital this year because it's not a good quarterback class, and you want to save all your chips for next year because you want that second round pick next year. You want those third round picks next year, because if you're gonna be a Super Bowl contender this year, you're not gonna have a high first round pick to get the Matthew Stafford replacement. So that's the tricky part. If you go up, you need to give up something to go up. So maybe they just say, forget this draft class. We already got Jared Verse, we got Puka Nacua, Kobe Turner. We just need a player right now to make an impact. And if it's just one player, go ahead and do it. And then we'll keep all our picks for next year because we need to get that quarterback. So what if they get Tyler Warren, who could also block? Remember the dirty work we were talking about? Tyler Warren's
Yep.
more the well-rounded. Loveland not as much. So maybe that's the one that he wants at Sean McVay, because he likes playing the 11 personnel. The more you do, the better. He doesn't have to rotate too many guys. Keep it going. Here's the play. So maybe Warren could be the guy, but you have to trade into the top 10. That's a lot of ammunition you got to lose here when you want to get a quarterback. So to me, I think that's a possibility where you say, we don't care for any of the quarterbacks this year. Maybe we don't even care for this draft class at all. Got one guy in mind. We're gonna give up all the picks here. Go ahead and take them. We'll take Warren. I wouldn't totally hate that, but you do have some needs defensively that you want to try to address. So it's risky, but you always have that in the back of your mind. We need more picks to get a quarterback. And if it's not going to be this year, it has to be next year. And you don't want to be giving away picks for next year when you need to get a quarterback next year too.
Yeah, and I mean, it'll be interesting to see, but this is one I've heard a lot, that I could see them either trading for one of these guys, just because we saw the impact, like the tight end position, until Tyler Higbee returned. Once he came back,
Yeah.
they pretty much forgot about Cooper Kupp. They're like, hey, Tyler Higbee's back. We're gonna get him the ball. We understand, we don't know. Outside of Havenstein, Tyler Higbee was another guy that people weren't sure whether or not he was going to come back, because that was a very devastating knee injury that he had, and he's had two devastating injuries back to back. And so, they want to look for their tight end of the future as well. So this is where, hey, if a blue chip talent like Warren or Loveland falls in your lap, or you're able to, or they fall to like 14 ahead of the Colts, you can go ahead and trade up. But we will see. I mean, that those are two names that I've been hearing a lot that the Rams are interested in. So
Yeah, they could also go to, maybe they don't have to trade up. Maybe you go from Mason Taylor from LSU. Maybe you go
that's the other
for
one that
Elijah
I've heard a
Arroyo,
lot, that they
Miami.
take at 26.
That could be
That's
an option. That way
Yeah,
you don't have to lose all your draft capital and still try
yeah,
to get a quarterback somewhere.
yeah, and we'll see. But talking about trades, Gilbert, there is a familiar name on the market, and there's already a lot of whispers in terms of would the Rams be interested in trading back for Jalen Ramsey. Him and the Dolphins have talked about, mutually parting ways and finding a trade partner for him. He is owed over $20 million this season. Uh, it sounds like you can get him for a trade swap late in the draft, but you still are gonna need to give him a contract extension. So that's where it starts with the contract extension. Do you see this happening for the Rams and Ramsey?
I don't because he was the first player to let go for this new kind of era where you gotta draft players and rebuild the salary cap. Remember that they released them, and that's when they finally said, "All right, we're done with this all in kind of aggressive mindset for veteran talent. We're gonna go draft Puka Nakua and Kobe Turner and Jared Verse. We're gonna keep our first round picks, and we're gonna have a clean salary cap." If you get Ramsey, then you're kind of going backwards. Unless he's kind of like, you know what, I'll let the Dolphins pay me, and I'll just play for cheap here. Okay, go ahead and do it. He knows the scheme. He knows Chris Shula. He knows the head coach, so he knows the GM. There's a lot. They're familiar with each other. He probably likes living in LA, so I can see that. But the thing about this is like it's hard for star players to look in the mirror and say, okay, I'm not that guy anymore. I'm just a role player and I need to get paid like a role player. Like it's gonna be hard for him to say that. So I don't know if he's gonna whichever team wants to give him the money, he might go there first. And he already got a Super Bowl too. He's not in a hurry for that.
Yep.
So to me, I just don't see it. They're kind of going backwards unless he comes on a cheap deal and he wants to help out this younger defensive players and he wants to be kind of a mentor leader. Maybe move to safety. I don't think safety is a big need for the Rams. But um, it wouldn't surprise me, but I just feel like it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. He'll find somewhere else to go, maybe like a Baltimore or Buffalo. But to me, I just don't see LA being a fit here.
Yeah, it just with the way things ended, it doesn't either make sense either. I get it if he was like a mentor, you could see him doing that. I could see that and him taking less money to come here for 1 year. I just he would have to buy in. I get McVay has done a good job of making sure players stay in line. If not, they pretty much are like, hey, we don't want none of that nonsense. We don't do outside noise. And so if you can't keep things straight here, then we're just gonna let you go. And I get it. It might not only it might cost you just a swap, but you got to make sure that hey, he's going to be cool with that 1 year, and he's good to do that. And we just don't know that. And he should get as much money that I've always said, and his legacy is cemented already. Like you said, I mean, he's going to be a Hall of Famer. We know that. There's no doubt about that. And so for him, it's like, hey, get the most money. We always see that. Every time we were like, oh, he's going to go to a certain player is going to go to a certain team because he wants to win a Super Bowl. At the end of the day, is whoever is going to pay them and give them an extension, that's where they're going to go.
Yeah. So I'm not sure what's his market or who's going to take him. Uh, Maybe a team that is if it feels like they're closer to the Super Bowl and they haven't won that, maybe he
Yep.
goes there. But like you said, this guy has done everything in his career. Maybe he goes where the money is at, and it could be a bad team that just needs help, and they're willing to pay the guy.
Yep. I got two more questions for you, and we'll get you out of here. Next one is: will Lesney draft another running back?
I feel like there's been a lot of conversation about taking care of Kyle Williams, and I think I'm gonna buy into it. And you already got Blake Corum. Like we'll see what Blake does. It wasn't a good rookie year, but it wasn't a good rookie year for Kyle Williams either. He took off in year two. So I think they need to see how that plays out first. So, I don't know. Maybe it just wouldn't make sense to get another one, but it is a very good draft class for running backs, but it's not a need right now. Uh, you need defensive players, you need offensive linemen, and maybe another wide receiver, so or tight end too. So to me, he could definitely do it in day three, but one of these players that nobody cares about, it might be a special teamer or a good blocker. But from an impact kind of sense where he could be a future starter, I'm gonna say no.
Yeah, I'm gonna. He can't help himself, Gilbert. He's gonna draft one. Whether, like you said, I mean, I've heard from 20 to 30 potentially running backs could potentially be drafted. So I just
Mm.
don't see him. I mean, there's guys that they've drafted that there was that kid that we forgot his name. I think it was Evans for a while there that got he was drafted in the third round. He just Lesney can't help himself. He likes certain SEC players, and he likes drafting running backs no matter what. So I could see him, as you said, for sure day three. I mean, he probably will get one with this last pick, but he's not gonna go. He's not gonna leave this draft without drafting a running back. That's for sure. And then my last question, Gilbert, just what do the Rams do at 26? Do they keep their pick? And if they do, who do they go with?
I'm gonna keep going into this Rams regime, sticking to their philosophy. They're not gonna trade their first round pick. I think they're gonna keep their pick. Obviously, they went for it in the second round, but in the first round, they'll keep it again. They'll stay at number 26. And I'm trying to. It's just tough, man. I don't see linebacker or cornerback talent being there for them that they want. So I'm gonna go with an offensive lineman. I don't know if it's a guard or a tackle, but there's gonna be one that might fall, like maybe Booker from Alabama. I doubt it. A lot of teams need an interior guy. Maybe Zabel because he played at North Dakota State. People don't want to give him a chance because he didn't play at one of these big programs, but he fits multiple needs, man. Again, I'm not sure who's gonna be the center, and I don't know what that means for Steve Avila, who could play both. And
Well, they brought back Colton Shelton.
he wasn't good at all last year.
Yeah.
Again, like
No, I'm
the
just giving you the
Bears hated
names.
the
Yeah.
guy, but I
Yeah.
get it. He was good the year before with the Rams, but again, I don't think that's your center of the future. If they bring in Coleman Shelton, that tells me that Bo Limmer wasn't really the fit. He was more of a temporary guy. And then I'm starting to think they don't believe in Steve Avila playing like center. They like him better as a guard. So
Yeah.
to me, I'm gonna say it's gonna be an interior guy, but I would not be shocked if there's center. There's a good center from Georgia. I'm blanking on his name, but he might be more of a day two pick, so maybe they get that later. But I'm gonna go offensive line. I won't give you a guard or center or tackle, but it's gonna be some lineman that's gonna be like, you know what, he's the best player available. F it, let's go with this guy because there's a lot of good linemen here, and it's gonna be a lot of good edge rushers and defensive tackles, but they got a bunch of those already. So to me,
Yeah.
it will go offensive line.
I think they do trade. I think they do trade their pick. It just makes sense. There's going to be a lot of those second round early picks that teams that want to trade up. I feel like 26. You're going to see the Bills, the Chiefs, those kind of teams need extra picks, and so they're gonna and I feel like the Rams they rather get more picks because they've been good at doing that, but if they keep their pick, I think it'll be Malachi Starks, the
Oh,
safety,
yeah,
because you
safety.
can move him around. From Georgia, he's somebody that I've really liked for the Rams. I just think that if he's there, I know a lot of people have him. They've mocked him to the Ravens. I just feel like if you're the Rams, he's there. You can't pass him up just because he's one of those talents that can do everything. He can play the slot for you. He can play safety. You can move him around. He reminds me a lot of Kyle Hamilton. If you can get a Kyle Hamilton, not as good as Kyle Hamilton, but can be a Swiss Army knife, I feel like you take him there at 26 and you can move him around. But that's what I'm going to go with. I'm going to say Malachi Starks, I think is his name, is who they
Yeah.
go with.
It's interesting because it's not a big need, but it's also like not a place where they have a lot of talent. Maybe I'm being offensive to Cam Kinches and Cam Curl. And I know that Quentin Lake could play some of that, but he's been rotating a lot as their kind of their star player. So they do have some safety there, some players there. But if a player that talented could help you, why not? Again, if it's best player available approach, I got no problem with that either.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just feel like one of the trends that I like taking something from every team, something that they do really well and applying it to your team here with the Rams. Whether you look at the Eagles, the fact that they pay their players early, they make sure that they take care of the trenches. You look at Baltimore, they don't care if they have an all pro guy there. Whether you look at the tight end position with Mark Andrews, they went and drafted a tight end. Kyle Hamilton, they didn't need him, but he was the best player available. It doesn't matter whether or not that position is filled, like you just mentioned with all those safety, Winston Lake, and all the rest of those guys. It doesn't matter. You take the best player available, and because you don't want to pay for defensive players, look at last year with Jared Verse. When you have guys that fit the culture and are, what did I also say that less need like certain Leslie likes to draft certain players from the SEC. This also fits that mold there too. So I just feel like it makes so much sense.
Yeah, again, like I started the show saying, they could go a number of ways here because the biggest need is run defenders, but it's hard to get that because they're specialists, and you already have a lot of good defensive tackles. So but then you go to linebacker, and they're not going to value that. So it makes it tricky because that's what they need. But it could be a cornerback, but then maybe you're spot on. And just think about it as a defensive back. They need help in the
Hmm.
pass, and maybe that's just what it is. It doesn't matter if it's a safety or corner. Get somebody that can help you defend the pass.
Yeah, and then with drafts too, like I feel like with the defensive tackles, you can get those in the third round. You can double up since you have two picks in the third round. You can get two defensive tackles there. So, yeah, like
Yeah, that's where you get your
defensive tack.
specialist. Yeah, in
Yeah,
the third round.
yeah, and there's a lot of big ones out there too. Like I feel like that was one of my bold predictions that I feel like 10 or 15 are gonna go early, and just because the defensive tackle is being valued again, and look at it, I think you wrote a story about all these guys getting paid now
Yeah.
because of it, and so you want to get them on the cheap right now.
Yeah, I'm gonna make one prediction. They're gonna get a defensive tackle who's not a good pass rusher, maybe a little out of shape, but he's a big SOB who could stop the run. And they'll
Yeah.
probably get this guy in the third or fourth round. That's my prediction. It's gonna be some massive nose tackle just to help out.
Yeah, there's if you want a prediction from me, I'll say that they'll take one of those special teams guys. There's a kid out of Alabama that Nick Saban said is the best special teams player he's ever had. I forget his name.
Wow,
It's Q something. Is with the Q. I forget his name, but that's somebody to keep an eye on in the middle rounds, because we know that the Rams are good at finding those guys.
good point. Yeah, they turn
Yeah.
these day three guys into starters.
Yep. All right. Well, that's our show. It's good to have you back, Gilbert. I know that we went a little over. We said we want to do about 30 minutes, but I appreciate you giving me this time to be able to do a draft preview for the Rams. And hopefully, everybody, make sure you like and subscribe, and give us your who do you guys think that the Rams are going to draft, and we'll go from there. But good show, Gilbert.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It's good to be back. We'll try to do a live show maybe sometime next week to kind of assess the entire draft. We'll try to do maybe another kind of tape delay show for the first round pick. We'll try to do that sometime later this week. But I am definitely willing to do a live show next week to kind of get back into talking to everybody here at House of Horn. So it was a good first show to kind of get my thoughts out there, and I'm glad that you allowed me the space to do that, Vic.
Yep, and we're good to go now, and we'll start making some changes here on House of Horns. Need to make sure we fix up some of the stuff, do a little restructuring here, but we're off and running, Gilbert. Before you know, the season will be here. This
Oh
is
yeah.
we're starting phase one already, so in a couple of months the season will get here. But this is the first step. It's free agency, then it's the draft, and then it's off season workout. So we'll get there, but good show. Why don't you go ahead and give us your good out that you like to do.
Yeah, let's get out of here. But before we do, let me know in the comments who you think the Rams should take at number 26, or even you want, give us your full Rams mock draft, 7 rounds. We'll take it. But it's time to get going. Ya nos vamos, pues. Vámonos.